Hey there, welcome back to Journals for Breakfast. Okay, this video is going to be a mishmash, as some of mine are. I think I am filming this for future me and for you, but also for future me. I have some plans to focus on a no buy for 2025. So I'll go into some more detail about what I really think that's supposed to mean for me in 2025. But I am just going to throw a little footage here of where I am with kind of this craft space. I've done a lot of purging back here in the last, well, honestly, in the last few years. I know that sounds crazy, but my stash was out of hand. And in part, I don't have any shame about that, you guys. I think in part it happened because, one, I was buying yarn and not finding time to knit, which was a byproduct of working too much. My schedule was crazy. I was just working so much. And I think that in the midst of the burnout, there was always this fantasy, this idea that I was going to somehow find this private time, this quiet time, and therefore get my knitting back on track. And then purchasing the yarns felt good, of course, retail therapy. So it just sort of built up on itself at a time when things were a little tumultuous anyway. So I spent the last few years really focused on trying to burn through my own stash, and I've done a pretty good job of it. That included a few purges that were let's just go, just donate them. You know, you're not going to use them. It included a lot of knitting, working through the stash, and then some more purges. And recently, a good friend of mine, Donna, who lives in Black Mountain, North Carolina, she offered to accept donation boxes to her home that she then delivered to this huge event that they did in North Carolina of fiber and fabrics for artists and also just people who lost their stash or studios or whatever during the terrible hurricane that hit there. So that was a great excuse to go really hardcore this time. And because it was going to artists and because it was going to people who were truly knitters who'd lost their stash versus like a random drop off at Goodwill, which has its place too, I really gave up some good yarns that I just had to accept were not finding their way into my wardrobe, which is what I knit for, or my weaving plans for the future that I'm trying out. And so it was a good opportunity to really purge some good stuff, you know, because I'd kind of been clinging to some of that. So that was a really good one. Off that went, and then my husband helped me change out some stuff back here, and I'll show you a little bit of that. I'm gonna flip this camera around, and I've left this room kind of the way that it looks every morning by about 10 o'clock. I typically clean it up mid-morning because then I get busy, and in a normal part of my life, I go to work. So my crafting stuff tends to take place back here between, say, 6:30 or 7 in the morning and somewhere around 10. Now, within that time frame, I also have coffee, have breakfast, get cleaned up, walk my dog. I do a lot of kind of popping in and out after, say, my first 30 minutes of my create before I consume concept. But this place gets a little crazy, and then I do a quick tidy up. So I've left it crazy, and we'll do a little look through of what's in here and see how that goes. All right, so I'm gonna turn this around for us. All right, so just turning the camera around, this is what I'm looking at. And look, what a mess that looks like, right? But actually, not so terrible. I'm gonna do this handheld. I hope I don't make y'all seasick. But this wall, there's those new pegboards that Michael put up for me. And then I have some project bags over here that have a project ready to go, a little cowl. And then this is some cloth for cross stitch. This is another little shawl, and this is tools, and then this is a project I'm going to start. It's a treat to myself for the new year. This is the project I'm currently working on, so if you take that off the turntable, it's not so bad over here. I just throw it up here at night when I'm done working on it before I go to bed. And then my buckets over there one is variegated sock yarns, and the other two are linen quill from Pearl Soho. And I will definitely use those. And then I'm starting to pile up kind of some gifts that are getting ready to go out and getting ready for some Advent enjoyment of my own here. And then as we move down the table, I have my color printer that I use for patterns. And then this board I rearranged so that it's focused specifically on the yarns I saved that I'm going to weave. And then the loom and the loom tools are all there as well. That's my small loom. That's the little how-to book. And then there is a pattern and a skein of yarn that go together there. And my plan for the loom is to weave fabrics that I then make some bags and or pillows out of. These fabric bolts were donated to me by a friend's mom who was an amazing sewist who just finally retired and was going into a smaller space and didn't want them, so I took them. But look at this table. This table can be the table that just goes bananas so quickly. This is where I sit and film. There's my chair, and you're familiar with the boards behind me. So this IKEA shelving is clunky, but to be honest with you, it's working for me. Echo seems to love it. And what I kept over here were yarns that basically have a purpose in the world of garments for me, but a lot of this is sock yarn. And I'm going to talk about sock knitting a little bit too, why I'm interested in that for the new year. And then these are sweaters. These are actual sweater quantities that I'll be using, and there's nothing there. So that's nice, I have room. And then I did kind of a redo of my cork boards over here. My desk will always be a little cluttery because that's who I am. I'm a creative and I like a little bit of clutter. These are some sketches I worked on this weekend just for the fun of it. A little painting. This is a painting I bought at SAF many years ago. I did not do the painting. He's so cute though. And me and my friend Chris, and me and my stepmom's dad back in probably 1980 is a good guess, maybe 78. So yeah, this is this space. I'm gonna spin back around and we're deciding what to do with the trunk. Under those tubs this is my little rolling cart. This trunk that I've had since high school, and it's full of Christmas craft items. So we're debating where to put that. Michael has some ideas about that. And then my little rolling cart, and then here's the table. Oh, creativity. This is what happens to this table every morning. You can see where I was working this morning on some watercolor, and ate some toast. And I have a test knit that I'm starting. So I was reading the instructions for that. So it's time to tidy this up. So I'm gonna do that and then come back and chit chat with you some. Hey, it's voiceover Andrea here, and I'm just putting in some footage of what this room looked like prior to our flood a year and a half ago. You can see it was a very different setup, and I did have stash hidden away in that closet. This is after the flood. And you can see we just had to gut this room is what happened. And so that's why I shifted it from a lounge space like it was into this more art studio space. It just was better for my new life and for finding more time for creativity. And these were these baskets where I had some stash. So that's just a look at what it once was. And there's that same IKEA unit, just in a different setup from back in the day. And we just reconfigured it. throughout the entire house was when I realized that by hanging on to the things that weren't serving me, it was just creating more brain fatigue. If I had a closet full of things, half of which I haven't worn in 5 years or 8 years, and yet I kept telling myself, but one day, every time I stepped into that closet, my mind had to come to terms with the but one day you might items, while it was simultaneously trying to figure out what I needed to wear in that moment. And it's fatiguing. It's really tiring. Our brains, everything that we see, our brains choose to process. It's something we can't turn off. They're just going to say, hey, you're looking at this item, and I'm going to start cataloging in my mind what this item is. Useful, not useful, old, new, pretty, not pretty. And then the more that we have around us, right, that doesn't tie in. This is partly why, like, when people do their closet shift out, they get rid of all their winter stuff for the summer. Because if you leave that winter stuff there, even though it's unwearable all summer long, your mind is still contemplating its appearance. There it is. Do I need that coat? No, it's July. Now let's look at this. But you've spent the energy processing that you don't need that coat today. And so we clear it out and move in just summer stuff. And that really is how I managed to find sort of the joy in the purge versus it feeling like a chore, or like I was punishing myself, or like I was giving away things that I wanted but just didn't have the space for, because that feels kind of punishy. For me, it's more about accepting what's no longer serving me and simply moving it along. It's just wearing me down if it's in my space and not serving me. That's what I was trying to get to. That was a long loop. So purging, and I do it in stages. I don't think that we can purge out our entire, cross-stitch collection and all of its accessories that we've built up over 30 years in a day. I think we do it in small stages. Can you say goodbye to the ones that you recognize have just stopped speaking to you? Things about like cross-stitch and those types of crafts also tend to be trendy because they're based in home decor trends and things of that nature. And there may just be something that's truly fallen out with what your own style is. Hand it off. It is what it is. Pack it up, put it away, put it in the attic, whatever you need to do. But purging, I've always said that my closet is so small that I actually really love that because it's super valuable real estate in my house. It's very valuable real estate, and therefore nothing gets to camp out in that space that isn't immediately useful to me. I do not hang on to old stained t-shirts. I do not hang on to aspirational jeans, right? Those 2 sizes ago that are also 16 years old. Bye. I don't hang on to things that aren't serving me. That space is very valuable, and I want to be able to walk in and be dressed and walk out. I want to walk in and have the confidence of knowing that everything in there fits. So pick a bottom, pick a top, and out you go. In the world of arts and crafts, this has been trickier because there are some what ifs in arts and crafts, aren't there? I mean, a yarn that I'm not using today but is beautiful, do I just get rid of it? I can't use every yarn that I have today. How do I choose? And so that I just let take time. That's the answer to that. Flow. There are going to be times when you want to cling to stuff, and there's going to be times where it feels so good to let go. And as I said, because that donation option was so specifically going to crafters and artists versus just out in the wild, it really allowed me to purge really good stuff that part of my brain could say, but this is a really good brand. Are you sure you want to let this go? I'm sure I want to let this go. Somebody's going to adore it. And I just never got to it. So the purge has been wonderful, but the purge also was the first action step that I could take towards what's been cooking up in my brain, which is the no buy for 2025. It's not 2025. So I can't be actively involved in the no buy for 2025. All I can do is fantasize about it and think about it. But purging to move towards that feels like an action step towards that next thing. And so what does the no buy of 2025 mean for me? And this is the part that I say I might be filming this for future Andrea. She may need to come back and watch this. 6 months in, we'll see. But my focus on the no buy is more specific to arts and crafts. I want to say that it's not about cosmetics or things of that nature, although I do intend to keep, impulse buys down, if at all, and focus on really intentional purchases when I do make them in all categories: food, home appliances, cosmetics, whatever. Intentional purchasing is going to be a part of my no buy year. But the no buy part of it is going to be the arts and crafts part of it. And I have stuff. I have supplies. And I don't know where this spark kicked in, but when I started to think about it, I started getting this sensation of absolute joy and relief at shopping in my own store. I have a store here. It's full of delightful things. Shop here, not out there, right? Right here. And the concept of me just coming in and closing out the outside world, shutting down all the impulse stuff coming at me about consumerism, and just enjoying what I have been so fortunate to curate in this space anyway, feels delightful. And I don't know how else to put it. It feels absolutely right in this moment. It doesn't feel limiting. You know, sometimes when you're trying, like, that's what I meant about purging not being punishing. This doesn't feel limiting to me. I feel like I'm giving myself the space and the permission to just adore what's already here. If I need to add something to it, I certainly will. If I run out of glue, I've got to buy glue. I do collage, right? I'm not saying that I will absolutely never purchase a thing, but it has to be something like that, something supportive to what's already happening within the space, utilizing what's already here. And it just feels right. I don't know how else to put it. This is the right move for me. It is not a condemnation of spending, nor is it a suggestion anyone needs to join me in this journey. I'm just sharing what I'm doing. And using what's here feels really good. Now, in the world of watercolor, I'm just curious. Like, I'm so interested to see what my little minimal watercolor paint collection, it's already very minimal. How far will that take me in 2025? Wouldn't it be interesting to finally find that out? I mean, we just buy and add and buy and add, at least I do. And how interesting to see how far I get with what I actually have here. I don't know, 6 months, 10 months, the entire year. It'll be really fun to see what that yields. And then as far as knitting projects go, I am at a place in my life where I have knit so much that now I'm super selective. When I choose a knit project, it is an addition to my wardrobe. And so within that, I'm very selective because it has to be the right material, the right color, the right shape, the right fashion. As I said, I'm very particular about what I put in my closet. So it can't just be a bunch of random sweaters. That doesn't work for me. When I knit a garment, I know that this is a piece that's missing from my current winter wardrobe, and that is why I'm knitting that piece. And that intention has been a big part of the use your stash and slow down the buying. And so I've gotten really into basically a habit of that. That doesn't take a lot of thought for me. But therefore, my knitting projects for 2025 are pretty well lined up through the winter. I understand what I've got in the queue. The yarn is ready, the needles are ready, the pattern is ready, because these are additions to this winter wardrobe for me. What will happen in the summer and spring, I don't know. My knitting in the summer, I tend to just let it be kind of whatever it is. So we'll have some fun with that. And then weaving is my new little passion. I have some fabric I made. I'll find that. Hold on, let me show you. Okay, I found it. Excuse me. I wove these fabrics. Aren't these fun? Get up close so you can see them. This one I left these little tassels on. And my intention with these is to, I'm gonna line them. I'm gonna put a little lining behind them so that they turn into a piece of material, actual fabric, which, I mean, they are now, but you know what I mean, with a lining behind it. And then I'm gonna turn these into some little zip top bags as gifts for friends. I am not a sewist. I have no intention of starting a career as a sewist or a bag maker. I will not be selling bags through the future. This is just a way for me to have a little creative outlet and use up some stash. Look at the fringe I left on this one. And so I'll show you this project, how this turns out in time. But my plan is to continue with that. Use the loom and the backup yarns that I have there that are just old stash yarns, and create fabrics. From those fabrics, I'll be creating little zip top bags, minis, mediums, and relatively large. My knitting friends will be getting them for project bags. My family and friends that do not knit will be getting them for cosmetics and just whatever they want to use them for. But I think that's going to be a really fun way to use that. I also plan, you see the width of this loom that I have? That's the width of it. My plan is to is to weave 3 panels and then tapestry needle them together, right? So these would be 3 of the same length panels across, and then tapestry stitch them together, and they will be a rug for the floor down here. Because this floor gets sandy really quickly. It'd be nice to have a little rug down here that will catch that sand that I can kind of pick up, take out, and give it a shake, and then do my vacuum back here. So I'm gonna make myself a rug on that. And then I have some really pretty kind of ribbon yarn that I thought I was gonna knit into maybe a beach cover up or something. And when I did a swatch of the material, I did not like the way that it knit up. What I mean is, that's not what I meant. What I mean is the material that it knitted up, I realized, is nothing I would ever wear. If that product had been hanging on a rack at a shop, I would have never picked it up, not even tried it on. You see what I'm saying about being really conscientious about what I knit having a place in my wardrobe, and that material just didn't. But I think it would be beautiful in a weaving, and I think I'm gonna do some table runners for family out of that. So fun stuff. It's so weird. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this. I don't know if I have been reading too much Outlander, and it's book 8, I think book 9, Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. It's the last one in the series. Being very Fraser's Ridgy, they're like canning and I don't know, salt curing pork, and it's like kind of grown up Little House on the Prairie vibes. Is that what triggered this, use what you have desire to just stop looking out and start looking in? I don't know, but it's like a wave of this came over me and I cannot seem to turn it off. But I have so much, you guys. I'm so fortunate to have all of these amazing things here, and I just want to see them go to use, and I want to shop my own collection, and I don't want to add to it. And I am curious to see how far it gets me too. What can I really make happen with what's already here? Yeah, so I'm just really excited about the prospect. And even just in these last couple weeks, for all of the purging, for what we lost during the flood and didn't replace, just said goodbye to, I can't believe that there was still more to go out. It's just incredible, isn't it? How quickly it all can come in. But it also, I guess, what else it's triggering is, there's a lot of comfort in control, isn't there? Because we're all always looking for control in life. And one of the things we have to accept is that we really can't control anything. Maybe this feels a little bit like that, in the midst of this cancer, which is so out of my control, losing my identity, which was my hair to some degree. This is horrible. It was a horrible experience. Yeah, so maybe that's part of it. Having this stuff and using it the way I want to use it feels like control, but also I went to the knit shop with a girlfriend the other day because she needed something. She was low on something and she'd called it in, so I rode with her. And just not buying anything felt so in control. So maybe that's some of where this is, because I'm telling you, it is like a wave of emotion that I cannot turn off. So it's stemming from something. That might be part of it. I think part of it also is that we're thrown, aren't we? Just nonstop barrages of consumerism. Now, I am inspired by the people that I choose to watch. So the things that I have autonomy about, which is specific to my Patreon accounts. When I watch Ollie and Bella, and she's sharing a bag maker company, I'm curious about that item. and I'll do a considerate thought about adding that too. Or Sandy by the Lakeside shares something. I just know that her tastes and her quality, what her standards are, meet my own and or are higher. So it's a safe place to find information about products I might be interested in. That is different than the ads on that are just scrolling through, right? A different story for me, but it also brings me to another thing, which is thoughtful purchases. As I said, I'm not intending to buy nothing for the entire year. I know that I will be needing some things on occasion, and I also know that I'll want to treat myself now and then. But I've mentioned in this podcast already that in 2024, one of my focuses was to just lessen my Amazon footprint. That's the way that I put it. It felt like a soft landing in the idea of stepping back from consumerism a bit and just lessening the Amazon footprint. Is whatever it is I'm about to buy, is that thing being made by someone, a small business, woman owned, Black woman owned? Is there a way that I can spend that money in a way that's way more supportive to something than the big thing that is Amazon? And so I was very conscientious about that throughout 2024. And one thing that I discovered about taking my time and buying items from small producers, small companies, women owned, Etsy, etc., is that those are never impulse buys. They just never are, because they require thought. They require autonomy. You can't just click, click, click and you're through. They require you going to a website and then looking at the item and then considering the item and putting it into your cart and then paying attention to the shipping options. They require patience. This is not going to be here this afternoon. It's going to be here in 2 weeks. And I kind of love that too. The anticipation of something handmade coming in the mail is such a delight. And I had forgotten how delightful that can be. So those purchases are just thoughtful and they're not impulsive. In some cases, the maker may be doing a shop update. And so you need a timer set because it's going to sell out quick. And I have even gone so far as to pick up, I have my number one item I'm interested in, but the backup one in case number one is gone before I can get it into my cart. Those are thoughtful purchases and I really enjoy those, and I enjoy that type of shopping, and I enjoy the delay. I love that it's not going to be here tomorrow. I love knowing as I walk by my mailbox every day with my dog that I'm one day closer to something special arriving. So there's that. And then I will say that this is a little deeper dive into thoughtful purchases and using our dollars as our voice as we support certain platforms, either politically or through about religion or otherwise. I've been doing a lot of thought about this since the elections here last week. And here's what I want to share about this. The fact that I have the financial freedom to be selective about the way that I shop is a privilege. And what I want to make sure that I'm careful about is that while I would like to do better about making sure that the dollars I spend support companies who also support platforms that I personally can believe in and engage with, that option is simply not available to everyone. I don't want us to condemn or for me to find frustration in my heart for those supporting, say, big box companies whose maybe political agenda is not completely in line with our own. Because the reality is, the freedom to use your spending dollar to also support platforms that you care about, that is an absolute privilege. That is not guaranteed. And there are plenty of people who, one, simply don't have those options available to them. What is available in their very rural area are big box stores that have moved in. That's what they have. And two, financially. You know, here we have Publix, Winn-Dixie, Walmart, Aldi, Trader Joe's. Those are probably the 5 most popular places that people grocery shop. And what I want to say is that my husband and I have shifted to Winn-Dixie. When we need a big shopping, we go to Walmart. I am quite sure that Sam Walton and I are probably not on the same page politically, but here's what I will also say. The groceries at Walmart are 1/4 of the price of the groceries at Publix. So if I spend $100 at Walmart, that same bag of groceries would have cost me $400 at Publix. I'm not guessing about that. I'm telling you the numbers. That is a big enough difference that we have to consider, that we have to take the discount option on occasion, don't we? Now, if I'm purchasing a pretty little notebook for this, that's one little purchase. I'm going to use it for 6 to 12 months. I'm willing to spend more, go through Etsy and pay the shipping and support that small business. But to feed myself and to make sure that we have the groceries in our pantry, I might have to make a choice that isn't the most wonderful, but it is budget conscious. And I just want to make sure that I keep that in the forefront of my mind too, that there's no condemnation towards others for the choices that they have to make, because this is a privilege for me to be able to make these. So I think I've said that. Okay. The idea of using what's in this space already is so thrilling to me. I'm curious how you're feeling about it. Are you doing anything similar? You know, I've noticed in the world of podcasters that it's so funny, the people that I follow really closely, I feel like every week when they speak, it's the thoughts that have been going through my head. We're just always such on the same page. And I do think that has something to do with personalities being similar, but I also think it has to do with, I don't know, planetary shifts, time in the world, politics, news, I don't know. But I think we all sort of ebb and flow in these very similar ways together. And I just am hearing from a lot of people that what I am suggesting, I'm aiming up for 2025, they are also in some way. So are you? I'm so curious to know. Are you planning to pull back spending? What does that look like for you? Are you looking to support more small businesses? What does that look like for you? And yeah, just curious to know where you guys are with that. Meanwhile, we are going to keep focused on this podcast. I will continue to show you footage of the space and the yarns and the products and see how they diminish over the course of 2025. And yeah, so that's my no buy. I'm not setting up a specific budget. This is how much you can spend. I'm not getting into any of that. I just am embracing the delight that is this collection I've curated of really wonderful things. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that at the end of this year, I think that what will become very clear to me is what in the way of arts and crafts, because I've just been flooded with this creation sensation throughout this year to the point where I'm scattered. Like I'm a little bit of this, some of that. I want to try this and then I want to try that. Like I can't rein it in. I'm feeling it getting more reined in lately. And I feel like this year of no buy and just concentrating on what's here will really illuminate for me, really highlight for me what of the crafts that I think that I'm really engaged in or want to be engaged in are going to work for my lifestyle. The reality is that we want to do things, we may have even purchased things that in the end we realize we just don't have the space for, or the time for. And it may be time to just come to terms with what that might mean at the end of this year. Is there something that those products could be sold and that money used for something else? I don't know, but I think this year will highlight that. And when I just keep adding and adding and adding, I think it's too distracting for me to figure out that core information. So I'm really interested to see what sort of cream rises to the top in the way of arts and crafts for me in this space this year as well. And I think a no buy will help really illuminate that for me. So I have to go do my floors. I've really been putting it off because it is still so hot here. And I started cleaning earlier. I took all the slip covers off the couch and threw them in and put the attachment on the vacuum to vacuum all the couch cushions and was just sweating. And I said, I'm going to go film a video instead, but I have to do it. It's time. Thank you for being here. Let me know about your thoughts for purging, for 2025 no buy ideas. And yeah, I am just really looking forward to seeing where this goes for all of us. And yeah, I'm going to throw in a little bit of footage of what this room is looking like right now. We'll just keep updating that through the year. Let's see how stuff sort of disappears. Rambling. Can't wait to get started on the 2025 no buy. I am being careful to not stockpile, like, oh my gosh, the no buy is coming, so start buying everything. I'm being really cautious about that and just really leaning into the joy that is the idea of using what's here. So I hope that inspires in some way, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great day.